I'd like to call the Village of North Fond du Lac Board of Trustees meeting to order. Audience members are requested to sign the sheet provided at the registration table. Citizens wishing to be heard on topics not listed on the agenda may speak under item C. Roll call.
Keith King,
Here.
Ann Price,
Here.
Jim Moore,
Here.
Mike Streeter,
Here.
and Mike Well.
Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any citizen participation? Any announcements?
Excuse me, Jim.
Yep.
Under citizen participation, I don't know if the trees aren't on our agenda, but sir, did you want to talk under citizen participation?
Well, yeah, I just, like what I talked to you about earlier.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to step up and address the board on that, or, because that would be the time.
Name is Charlie Grusho. I live on the corner of Polk and Michigan. Mike. Anyway, I was watching you guys cutting them elm or maple ash trees down again. And you're not cutting them up for firewood, you're not cutting them up for logs, nothing. You're just taking them out there and dumping them on Gears land, and it's just a big waste, because nobody's gonna want them for anything. Dumping them on top of all that old recycled blacktop and stuff, and then try to scrape them up and pile them up. You got, everything is all full of bark, or blacktop, stone, sand, grit. Why don't you get a hold of Kettle Moraine Hardwoods and see if they'd want them trees? I mean, you got forks for your loader. You can pick them logs up. You can cut them into 8-foot lengths or longer. You can pick them up, stack them, and I'm damn sure they'd have somebody to come and pick them up. Or if they don't want them, you got Krieger Lumber over there by Valders. They got their own trucks with the claw on them. They would probably come over and pick them up. I mean, you're just taking the stuff and you're just throwing it away, and it just don't make no sense. Not the way everything is going. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I gave that, I don't know what your first name is. Yeah,
Keith.
yeah. Pass that around and let everybody look at it. Some, you don't have to do it tonight, but I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. In the way the world is going, if somebody don't start to straighten it out pretty quick, you ain't gonna have nothing. I mean, you look at the population, how much that's grown in the last, I don't know, I was up there, I guess 16 or 18 years. And at that time, there was no apartment houses out on the west side of town here, nothing. And look at it now. And I mean, it keeps building higher and higher and higher. And you gotta stop throwing stuff away. You gotta start recycling, doing something with it, instead of just throwing it away and dumping it. And I probably shouldn't bring this up because I can't prove it. I don't even know how they figure it out, but they say that, I mean, all these trees you're taking out, now I'm hoping you're gonna replace them. But they say that a mature tree will take 200 tons of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide out of the air every year, and replace it with 200 tons of pure oxygen. Can't see it, can't feel it, can't nothing. I don't know how they got that figured out. I'm not a number cruncher, so. But, I mean, you're just making it, our atmosphere is going to hell in a handbasket anyway. So, I mean, why don't, somebody's got to start working, where you're not just throwing stuff away all the time. And I don't know if there's an ordinance against making money off of them trees or what, I don't know. But I'm damn sure you'd be farther ahead by selling them logs to Kettle Moraine or Krieger. And there's another guy just outside of town, Mike knows who I'm talking about. And I'm not gonna mention his name because I don't want anybody going out there bothering him. If he wants them, tell him come take all he wants, or buy them or do whatever, but don't throw the stuff away. God, that's stupid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything?
You talking to me?
Nope.
No. Any announcements?
You gotta yell, I hope, tonight.
Okay.
I hear you, Scott.
Okay, let's do the staff reports. Library, Heather?
Thank you. I'll just mention a few things. Next week, Friday, for the Good Friday on March 30th, will be open from 9 until noon that day. So, and then the rest of the day we are closed. We're working on book sale sorting, and the sale that's going to begin on Monday, April 9th, and that is for National Library Week. And we're also finalizing some things for summer. We're working on flyers that we'll give out to the children for summer reading programs. So there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes until that gets done, that we're ready for summer. So thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Municipal Court, Connie?
I'm just getting caught back up after my vacation, and Alicia ended up taking vacation the week after, and the judge had his annual seminar last Thursday and Friday. That's about it.
Thanks, Connie.
Heather? Connie? Administrator Chuck?
The week of March 5th, or like the 7th, 8th, and 9th, Baker Tilly was here doing their annual financial audit. Everything went extremely well, and they far exceeded what they had hoped to get done, and they made comments that because of getting so far, their billing will even be less for what they're going to charge us because of everything went so well. And credit to staff for preparing for it and have everything ready for them as they asked. And, we set up here in the boardroom, and they had access to our smart shirts to look at invoices, which they really, really appreciate. And so again, things went very well. If you've noticed at the Village Park, the outfield fence, the fence around the East Diamond is gone. Starting next Monday, the 26th, they're going to, Butch Cruz Company is starting to put it up. They're going to put the posts up on Monday, and then the following week probably put up the fabric, as they call it, or the fencing. There won't be any fence in the outfield. It'll just be along the first and third base side because they want the outfield fence to be movable. Depending on what tournament or what's going on, they will put up temporary fence. And it's just what was requested by the clubs that use that. We're also starting discussions about what's going to be happening with the parks. We're hoping to do something substantial on the corner of Prospect and Winnebago. And so we're going to be having a meeting with Stewart's next week to start that discussion. That's all I have.
Just a quick question about the fence. Who took that down? Did we take it down, or did?
We did. We did. Mhm.
Pull the concrete out? And
Yep.
so the new one,
We
just
being
leave it in?
DPW.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Nick, what's the status of the shelter over at the Mule Park?
That would be a question for Darren, but,
Darren?
Darren, do you want to possibly just mention, the question was about the roof for to go on the Mule Park.
Yeah, the shelter itself is, the framework is all up. We did put the roof on it last fall. That's on things that I talked about with the crew today about doing in the next 2 weeks here, to get the roof on it and all the stone put around it.
Okay, thanks. Police Department, Darren?
Thank you. I passed around the February monthly report, so you can take a look at that. If you have any questions, let me know. Everybody will be happy to hear winter parking ended officially March 15th. We actually stopped enforcing it about a week earlier because there was no snow and the weather was nice. Our newsletter went out, our spring newsletter, so if you haven't seen that, it's available online, both on the village website and on our Facebook page. Last week, the Fond du Lac County Health Department was in town and did tobacco compliance checks at the retailers in North Fond du Lac. Unfortunately, we did have one sale. We went out the following day, followed up with the clerk who acknowledged his mistake, and he was issued a citation for the offense. I also completed the annual court audit last week as part of the overall audit that we do. Happy to say that once again there were no problems during that audit, and thank you, Connie, for working with me on that. Lastly, our investigator, Jake Egan, is officially out on family leave now. Him and his wife welcomed a new baby boy on March 13th, so congratulations to them.
Thanks, Darren. Fire and EMS, Jake?
Thank you. The hiring process for the full-time medic closed on the 16th, on which I offered a current employee the job Friday afternoon. He accepted it and will be starting April 2nd, full-time. We are moving forward with our part-time positions. There are 4 people that I'll be calling this week to set up interviews with. Then Eric Butler and I will be taking care of the interviews. MTM, I've been talking about it often lately, and they got back to me last week with the contract that was signed, so I sent off information that they requested to them. So that's now in place, which is a good thing. And I'll be monitoring to see if there's a difference in revenue having them on board. And then on the 15th, we had an MSAC meeting. Chuck and I were there and went well, pretty much discussed the same things I just talked about. And then what we'll be talking about later tonight. So that's all I have. I am working on, I'm almost caught up with the run reports that I typically hand out, so you should be getting them at the next meeting.
Thanks, Jake. Public Works, Nick?
Thank you. Continue to work preparing for the Indiana Avenue project. Just getting prepared, get paperwork taken care of, getting all the contracts signed, things like that, and then trying to get a timeline put together and schedule a pre-construction meeting. We also, part of that project was going into the stormwater pond that's down in Indiana Avenue. Mitch and I went out there and the chest waders, and we had to shoot the silt in the bottom of that pond to see where the silt levels were. That was part of our requirement for the stormwater permit for the construction project. And the silt levels are to the point where we may need to clean that out. We're still kind of waiting for the DNR to tell us whether or not that needs to be cleaned. So we'll talk about it later, but I added some money to the budget for that, for the stormwater budget. Also, as was mentioned, the general fund audit, that was a couple weeks ago, since our last meeting, but went pretty smooth for us. A few questions for us, a couple follow-up questions. And then last week, we had a plan commission meeting on Tuesday night, which required a fair amount of homework going into that meeting. It's a special use permit, site plan approval, and then we're just talking about the special use permit tonight, along with the school project was also on that meeting for site plan approval at Horace Mann location. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Nick. Consent agenda. Approve the minutes of the following village board meeting, March 5th, 2018. Approve invoices, authorize checks to be drawn in respective funds. General fund, $78,085.96. Library fund, $1,200.09. EMS fund, $5,959.88. Water department, $34,396.23. Wastewater department, $5,037.57. Community development, $11,837.41. Stormwater fund, $861.50. Grand total of $137,378.64. And number 3, approve or deny operator's license for Skylar Seelig for Mad Max. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second?
Motion by Will, second by Streeter to approve the consent agenda. Questions? Mike?
I just got one here. I don't know if Nick or Darren can answer it. That Water Well Solutions, that valve replacement. Is that the company we had that service agreement with?
Yes.
And not part of the contract, or?
Not part of the well, it's part of the distribution system.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike?
Hey Chuck, on page 1 for Anderson Cleaning, I was just wondering, is that still going pretty well?
Yes, it is. And I'm actually this week just going in and spot checking on it and seeing if it's doing okay.
Okay, and then a couple down for Baycom Incorporated for a touchpad, is that 500, is that for the ambulance, or?
Yes, it's one of the touchpads that they use for client or patient reporting, having them sign and
Okay.
everything else, so.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? If not, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Administration, number 1. Discussion possible action to approve the special use permit for JBL Construction.
I can give a summary of that. The Plan Commission met last week. There was a special use application received by Jerry Van Lannen for a property. It'd be directly north of Sunbelt Rentals. Special use is for a mixed-use storage / shop facility. The plans are kind of, there's some plan sheets in here. This would be this building in your packet would be the mixed-use type shop facility, and then there's also more of the typical warehousing type building included in the development. Plan Commission discussed this at length, and they made the recommendation to approve the special use permit with mixed-use development, and it was a minimum of 50% of the first phase, because the proposal first phase was 4 buildings. The front 4 buildings towards Rolling Meadows. The recommendation was to approve those first 4 buildings, 2 of those being the shop type mixed use, and then a minimum of 25% of the total site, because there's a proposal of a total of 8 buildings on the site for future, and that the parking would comply with the zoning as they're built, and the structure would have a brick knee wall or skirting up about 3 feet on the facades facing both roads, Highway 41 and Rolling Meadows Drive, and then no outside storage would be allowed. Also, there's a lot of conditions on here. The site being removed from the floodplain via the floodplain map amendment, because the site does require approximately 2 feet of fill or more in areas to remove it from the floodplain, because it's currently mostly in the floodplain. That was the recommendation from the Plan Commission.
Mike?
I guess I can just feed in, I was part of that meeting. Some of the discussion is, do we want all that storage sheds along 41? I mean, the way it sits now, the special use, the front has to be 2 of them special use, and the rest can be just regular storage sheds. But the back could be all storage sheds. It's just what kind of representation we want for North Falmouth coming through. But, storage is kind of not clear in our ordinance.
So warehousing, mini warehousing is as what we would probably call the storage type facilities, is not specifically addressed in our code. And there was some language addressed in there, also some attachments about Act 67, which pertains to special use permits or conditional use permits. And we do have warehousing in our code. I mean, as far as the legal aspect of it, if we have any questions on that, we do have Jim Kelly here to speak on that. But mini warehousing is not specifically addressed in our zoning code, therefore, we've always treated it as a special use.
I tried to get it bumped up to like 50% special use, but I didn't get no traction on that. But he agreed to 25%. That special use building's a nice looking building, right? You guys can see it in front of you, so. Just your line also.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or anything? If not, I need a motion to accept the, or approve the special use permit.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Streeter, second by King to approve the special use permit for JLV Construction. Any other questions?
Could you just clarify that you're approving one, number
Oh,
one?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll,
You read it.
put that, where's that? Yeah, so the motion would be the recommendation for the village board to approve the special use request as proposed by the Plan Commission and containing conditions listed in option number 1. listed on the recommendation sheet.
I'll second it again.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? If not, all in favor of approving the special use permit, say aye.
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 Opposed?
What does it mean?
Motion carried. Number 2, discussion of possible action on approving the schedule for administrator interviews.
This is just a continued discussion of this following weekend, you know, and I tried to put it down on, in a spreadsheet just to make it as clear as possible. I've conveyed this information to the candidates and to the interview panels, so I think it's just a way of keeping it clean and knowing what's going on, so. It's open for any kind of comments or discussions on it.
What would be the written portion of it, Chuck?
The candidate's going to be asked to, there's going to be 3 questions that they'll have an option to just respond to. It's just, they'll have a laptop or a desktop available to them to be able to write a small piece on it.
I just have a question, if it's okay. Thank you. It says peer panel, that's the panel that you talked about, the other administrators and that are
Yes.
going to do that?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Okay. Is that from, excuse me, like peer panel 8 to 8:50, Nick? And then when village board, we just flip-flop them, is that what we're doing?
Well, at 8 to 8:15, you'll have David. From 9 to 9:50, you'll have John.
Okay,
10 to 10:50, you'll have Nick.
all right, I understand now,
Okay,
yeah, I got it, thank you.
sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, he was gonna provide us with suggested questions, do you know, and we would be able to.
I've got
take a look
those,
at
so yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I mean, just a quick thing. I mean, so we're gonna expect this, especially this first gentleman, he'll be there from like 7:30 till like 7 at night? I suppose he can leave.
When is this, which one now?
I'm talking about David, the top, first guy on the list.
David is
On
going to be.
Friday. On Friday,
This
I'm
is for a
looking at.
tour with the staff. This is Friday now.
Okay, and then he can leave?
Then you can leave and come back for the reception.
Okay, I see, all right,
Okay.
okay. I'm good.
Okay.
And if there's no other comments, that's, I think,
Mhm.
what we'll run with. And
Yeah.
we'll continue to send out information on these to the appropriate people during the week.
Everybody's agreed to
Yes.
participate
Yep.
in this
Yep.
year?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Number 3, discussion possible action on approving new service rates for EMS. Nick, or CJ?
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, you want to talk about this, Nick? At the MSAC meeting, the last time we reviewed our billing rates was October, I believe, of 2016. So we looked at them and are looking to make a few modifications to some of our charges. If you just want to look over the sheet.
Maybe just a
MSAC.
quick comment. In your packet, you had gotten this one that shorter
Right.
rates are recommended. It's got kind of a red 2018 recommended bundle disposable rates on the top.
And you put a
I
different
put a
one.
new one in front of you, so we'll be talking about the one that's got some handwritten values along the right-hand side. Sorry to interrupt, Jake, I just wanted
No,
to
that's fine.
clear that up with them as you go on here. So, all right, sorry.
I'll look at all this. So I can run through each of these sheets. As Chuck said, we can kind of not look at the recommended that it doesn't have the handwriting on it. Comparables from the rate survey, the ones that are highlighted in blue are bundled billing services, which means that what we used to do in the past is bill out using a charge sheet, and the members would have to go document how many of each, whether it's, you know, an IV catheter or AED pads or so on and so forth. they document how many of each of those they used, and get charged per how LifeQuest had it written down, essentially. And what we realized is it's not covering the cost of our materials. So looked at bundled billing, and these are the numbers that were presented to us from LifeQuest. So
Jake, can you go through these three rate schedules here and tell us what they're actually for, what it covers? Take the first one, that BLS
On this
base
sheet?
rate.
Okay, so, a base BLS rate, that's going to be, per se, it's kinda difficult, maybe flu-like symptoms, something like that, where we don't start an IV, or, do any ALS skills.
Can you maybe tell
The-
what BLS and ALS mean?
Yeah, the difference
No, just what
is
that
basic
is.
life support
Okay.
compared to advanced life support. So ALS would be, if we give one or more ALS interventions, so if we start an IV, if we obtain a 12-lead EKG, give any sort of medication that a BLS provider cannot give, so anything outside of pretty much oxygen. There are some breathing treatments that BLS providers can give. Epinephrine for anaphylaxis. I'm trying to run through the protocols in my head quick, and there's a lot of them. So that's pretty much the difference. ALS2 base rates, that's if we give three different, there's different categories, I guess, but if we give three different medications via IV, a continuous infusion, or do one or more procedures that an ALS provider can do, for example, using a defibrillator, inserting a ET tube, pacing a patient, chest compressions, surgical airway, or an IO. So it's kind of hard to explain if you don't kind of have a background in EMS.
I
With the
understand.
different skill levels and how we charge. So what LifeQuest does is, we write a report, document everything that we do, they look at it, review it, and they have coders there that code the bill, as the document reads underneath one of these categories.
I have a question.
Yep.
So LifeSource or LifeQuest, they are like our biller? They
Yep.
bill people for us?
Yep, so what we do is, we have a computer program called Image Trend Elite, and we write all of our reports on there, and then I go through, make sure that all the reports are completed. Once I put it in a completed status, then it gets sent off to LifeQuest, and then, like I said, they code it and bill it, so. And they take care of all of our collections as well. There's
Okay.
3 phases of billing, and 2 and 3 are a little bit more in depth, where they can be put on like a payment plan, or so on and so forth, so they take care of
Years
all
ago,
of
the
it.
village used to do the billing, but as it got, the volume grew, and it gets a lot more complicated as to what you can and can't do, and the rules for Medicare and all of those things.
Yeah.
What you can tell people when they call in, so LifeQuest has been very well for us. They've
Yeah.
got good collections, and so
Okay.
it's a good service.
Is there a reason why Onyx not on here?
No, this is just what LifeQuest sent us. I do not believe that they, I know they don't use LifeQuest.
Okay, this is one that's,
So,
that they started.
this is, yeah, this is where they pull their numbers from, their database.
So the set your number on the side, is this a different number that you're requesting now, or what?
The number that's handwritten is really what MSAC had recommended.
No, I gotta ask the talk here. Mike, thanks. You know, these rates kind of disturb me a little. We're in the high end of everybody in some of these bigger municipalities and stuff, and
Yeah, I see that too.
it's, our existing rate is enough, and then our recommendation was enough, and all of a sudden they wanna even go higher, so I have a problem with,
If you
Race.
look, I think, so if you look at the ones in blue, that's gonna be where we are most, level with, I guess. The ones that are in white do not do bundled billing. So we have a flat fee of $100 that gets added on to our base rate for our materials that we use. So
so.
it's essentially if you took our numbers, subtract 100 from it, and that's how you would have seen it prior to us going to bundled billing.
How
And
do
that's
the other people do it? How do they bill?
itemized.
Okay, so I mean,
So they bill at how we used to bill.
okay, so the numbers in your chart here are pretty much accurate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, $650 for, according to this sheet, the 2018
Yep.
with disposable rates. So it'd be $650, $850,
What are you looking at?
Looking at the resident, non-resident on the,
I'm looking at
yeah.
it too. I'm looking at, yep.
Yeah, so if you go top to bottom on these two sheets, and then we'd be looking at $750, and
Right.
then $950, so on and
Right,
so
I see it.
forth.
Yep. I see that, yep.
Which brings it back down to, similar numbers to what other services charge. And if you look at the average, within all of those, we're really close to what other services charge.
Maybe just a little clearer on what Jake was saying. You've got this one spreadsheet that's only part of it. It's kind of got a blue top on it. And I think Jake did a nice job of showing this is a period of July 1st to December 31st, 2017.
I didn't see that you added this. I can talk
Okay.
about this, sorry.
Can ya? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it clears, at least it gave me more the impression of how underbilling we really were
Yeah,
for supplies.
it takes the mud out of the water. So with bundled billing, which we started in July to December, you can see what we billed, and then our average collection rate is right around 47%, or it was last year, I should say, which takes our average income, or actual income, to roughly $15,000. Without bundled billing, we were billing out less than $7,000 and collecting just over $3,000. And if you look at our expenses for materials, and what all gets charged with the credits from our billing for disposable items, we weren't even covering the costs really at all without bundled billing. When they look at, or when I looked at the charge rates for some of our materials, we were collecting, or actually charging, about 30% of the cost, 30 to 35% of the cost for some of our materials, which doesn't pull back the money in that we need to actually support that budget.
Jake, when you go on that oxygen spinal, what does that BDP mean?
That means bundled billing,
Okay. Looks like
so that's bundled disposable. Pricing.
I have a question
Yep.
about this. Is this if we had done the bundled billing, it would have been that, and if we didn't do bundled billing, so it was 7,000?
Nope, we did. So July 20th that started, and so that's July 20th till December 31st.
So July 20th to December 31st, we did bundled billing and we billed
That's-
$32,000.
Correct.
Yes.
And so this 6,000 is July 1st to July 20th?
That would have been January 1st to July 19th.
Say that again? Yeah.
I was just wondering what the billing,
Without bundle billing?
yeah.
That's how much we would have billed if we went to bundled?
No, that's actuals for the,
from January to.
from January to July.
So the
So
heading
that's
should
the
be
first
January 1st.
6.5 months of the year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So
I guess I didn't realize there were two different time periods, but you said the bundled, without bundled is the first half of the year, with bundled is the second half of the year.
Correct, yeah.
Where's that at?
The little sheet.
should this say January 1st
Well, the top one is July through
Yeah,
December.
I should have done that. I
The bottom one is
apologize.
January through July, so that's two different
Oh,
times.
last year or this year? Oh, last
I
year.
think what Jake is trying to show
47%,
is that
okay.
the January through the
Almost,
first of July is
yeah.
almost the same as the
Well,
second.
yeah, yeah.
And what you have to know too is that this average collected, I mean, we can bill $100, but average-wise, we only really physically get 50% of that.
Okay.
That's what the actual income is. So for the second half of the year, we actually got 15,400. And for
Yeah.
the first half of the year, we only got 3,002.
Okay.
So if you take the, actual income without bundled billing and essentially double it, that's what we would have made in revenue for the entire year, which is less than half of what is budgeted. All the expenses where it says budgeted, all those numbers are cut in half. So it represents half the year. Does that make sense?
Sure, you have a full year of sales, but only half a year of expenses?
Yeah, because I was trying to explain how much it covered with the bundled billing.
Okay.
That's,
So really, if you look at with bundled billing and this expense number, that would be your sales and your cost of sales or cost.
yeah, for
So
the
we-
second half of the year.
So we made $15,000 of sales and had $11,000 of cost.
Correct.
Correct.
And so you're saying in the first half of the year, we had $3,200 worth of sales, and we're assuming we had $11,000 worth of cost the first half. of the
Yeah,
year.
it's probably really close to that.
So we would have lost $8,000 the first half of the year.
Without bundled.
Yeah.
Mike, Will?
How much has that transported services affected this year at all? I mean, that's,
A lot.
not a lot?
A lot. This
I was gonna
year,
say, 'cause, I mean,
like
it was-
2018,
I mean, that was part of getting that service off the ground too. I mean, okay, so you're saying.
what do you mean by, what do
I
you want to
mean-
know it affected?
Okay, I mean, the number, I guess our profit rating or profit margin on this stuff, is it less profitable with the transportation with
No,
supplies?
no,
and-
we charge the same for both ambulance. We had in the past for materials. So each ambulance has used the same charge sheet with the same recommended charges for each item. Does that make sense? So
We
502.
talked about, when you put this into service, we were gonna only get about 50%, so I mean, looking at your average collection, we're at 47% at the end there, so we're kind of in that target area that we talked about. That's what we usually collect, about half, right?
Yeah, just about.
So
I
what has
guess I don't
changed,
understand
what
your-
has changed from other years?
Well, in the past, we haven't been collecting enough money to support our materials budget.
Okay.
That's kind of what the change, I guess, is all about. You know, when we sit there and look at how much money we're gonna put into the materials budget, you know, the revenue that we pull back from materials doesn't cover that budget, if that makes sense. So if I have, you know, this piece of paper and I get it for $5 and I sell it for $1, you know, there's no point in doing that. And that's pretty much what we've been doing with our materials.
Okay.
So Jake, with the other sizes of the cities, I mean, you know, that we're being compared to, I mean, does it make more sense for us to charge a little bit more just because it's costs more for us to operate? Is that true or no? Or
I guess we never really looked at it from a operation standpoint.
Okay.
I'm more or less looking at it from a material standpoint, and we need the money to, you know, offset that budget, you know. So I think as far as operating, it'll help out. We're only gonna get a certain amount of money from Medicare, Medicaid, and that's, you know, 45% or so of the people that we transport, and that's just how it is. And that's pretty average for the last 3 to 5 years. So it'll definitely help out. I'm not gonna deny that, but it's not, if you look at the financial impact summary, it's not gonna make or break the the department in any means. It's essentially gonna do what we were targeting, which is, ensure that we're making revenue for the materials that we're using. So,
And then MSAC is on board with everything? MSAC's
Yeah,
on board
yep.
with everything
Yeah.
that we're discussing?
yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
I just have one question, Jim.
yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Thank you. Would it be fair to say, when you look at, excuse me, the other cities that they're comparing us to, would it be fair to say the city of Manitowoc, that's what, 50,000? Between 40 and 50,000 to Pier, right up there, Beaver Dam, Ashwaubenon, Oshkosh, that they're doing more calls than you? So
Correct.
their revenue would be higher, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody got any more questions? Jake, you're,
I'd like to make a motion to just approve the recommended rate, not the extra that the MSAC approved. I want to make a recommendation or a motion to approve just that amount, not the extra amount that MSAC approved. We can look at this again next year. I think it's quite an increase.
what are you?
In the yellow, the highlighted yellow area.
Okay.
I'll make a
You
motion
mean
just
the
to approve that.
original?
What's that?
The original
Original
recommendation, not...
recommendation, yep.
Yeah, can I say something about
Let's wait
that?
till the second. They'll get a second, then we can discuss it.
All right.
I second that motion.
If MSEC is approving it, why do we want to go lower?
Well, we got a second here, so let's.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so,
We can still discuss it.
yeah, we have to open up discussion, so.
We were providing a service out there, doesn't mean we have to be the highest one out there, so we can take it up in increments instead of, they call us out for service. I mean, I don't really wanna charge more than we have to. We're getting an increase already. We're increasing the amount of the service. I mean, I know that amount's gonna cover some of the materials and stuff like that, but when you have one of these service calls, that's what you're gonna charge, so. Sure, we can charge $1,000. I mean, we can charge whatever we want to charge, but I think it can go up in stages.
If you're comparing to other cities,
Yep.
the reason it's that way is we make less calls.
Well,
Jake?
well, we gotta structure our staffing accordingly, I guess, so.
If you look at the pieces of paper with the handwriting on them, you'll see that the changes came for non-residents, not residents. And reason being is they're not in our tax base, and that's why we decided to make the change for $25 on each of those, except for the on-scene care. So
But they're part
We're
of
not-
they're part of our service, so why should we not take the hit?
they're
And they
not
do.
necessarily they're not part of our service area whatsoever. These are people that if we get a MVC on 41 and they're coming from Milwaukee going up to Oshkosh, they're not anywhere in our tax base.
So
So
you're
these
saying
are
a
not,
non-
these are people outside of our tax base. So outside of El Dorado, Lambertine, Town of Fond du Lac areas, North Fond du Lac, and Friendship, and Van Dyne.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I can't support that motion because, you stole my thunder right there. But, also, these are not fair comparables. Our call, our calls are not up to the standards of these other, cities, that were mentioned, Manitowoc, De Pere, Beaver Dam, Ashwaubenon, Oshkosh. So I will not support the motion that's out there.
Jimmy, you might want to take a roll call vote on this one.
Yeah, I think so.
But I want to make one more suggestion, I guess.
I'm not in favor of it either.
That's okay. But I guess if they're not comparables, I guess we should have had comparables. We should have had comparable sites or services that at our level, so.
Jim, can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
They pull from places that are the closest to us. We're pretty rare. There's 11,000 people that we serve. So to get an idea, they pull from people that have rates that are similar to ours. So there could be services out there that, whether they have 5 or 75,000 people, either charge way more or way less than what we charge. So,
Do roll call, Jim, or?
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Take a roll call vote.
Keith?
No.
Ann?
No.
Jim?
No.
Mike?
No.
And Mike.
I'll say no also.
Okay.
Never mind, because of the non-resident thing.
I will make a motion, if still here, to approve the rate increases.
So you
Number
going with
one.
option number one, Keith?
Yes, sir.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any other discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dan.
Is this just for like emergency calls, or is this for like, I know we're starting to like ship people that's not emergency?
yep, this is for everybody.
So does that make us less competitive though? I mean, are people less likely to pick us if we're
No,
less-
so for non-emergent transports, and let me know if I'm missing anything, Adam, but we can set up contracts with hospitals that, we can provide the service at a lower cost. So what we look at doing is going closer to our actual collection rate, because we'll get paid in full. So, per se, we're working on a contract with Waupun right now. We gave them a knockoff of what we actually bill, because we'll get that money returned in full. So, as far as that goes, no. In the 911 world, if they're anywhere in our square that we cover, we're gonna get called no matter what, so.
Okay. Okay.
And for the decision of how an ambulance gets picked, excuse me, it's that of the hospital. So if it's the patient that's saying specifically, I want this ambulance specifically, they're paying that out of pocket, insurance will not cover it. So what the hospital does is they pick the ambulance that is most appropriate and most timely for the patient's condition. So it's kinda, regardless of what the cost is gonna be, there's automatic adjustments and discounts that come off that price every single time. So it's the hospital's choice of really who's gonna get called. Unless, like Jake said, we're negotiating a contract. In that case, the language in the contract is going to say, and it does say, the one that we're currently working with, that for certain instances, we will be the primary ambulance that you call for those.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second for the recommended changes to the disposable rates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry, but I have to bail. This is my last school board meeting, and they don't have a meeting if I'm not there, because they don't have a
Quorum tonight, Evan.
See you, Mike.
Have a good night.
Okay, resolutions, we got 4 of them tonight. First one is for the resolution R2-2018 for the water utility for the village of North Fond du Lac. Any changes from last meeting?
There are no changes to the water utility budget as we discussed at last meeting. Numbers should all be the same, and this is just the formal process if there's no further discussion of approving it.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the resolution R-22-2018.
I'll make the motion to approve.
A second?
I second that motion.
Motion by Will, second by Price to approve the resolution for the water utility. Any questions?
I'm sure, there's no increase.
Nope, not proposed for 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor of approving resolution R-2-2018, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Number 2, resolution appropriating necessary funds for the operation of the wastewater utility. Any changes there, Nick?
No changes to this one.
Okay. Need a motion to approve resolution R-3-2018.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 3-2018.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Motion by King, second by Price to approve resolution 2018. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Resolution R4, 2018. Necessary funds for the operation of the stormwater utility. We do have one change on that.
As I mentioned earlier in my weekly report, as part of the Indiana Avenue project, we were required to check the pond at Indiana Avenue. It's been there since 2003. All of our stormwater ponds have a maintenance plan with them. You basically have to check they're designed to take sediment out of the water over time. That needs to be cleaned out of the pond. So as part of that stormwater permit for the Indiana Avenue project, the DNR required us to check the pond levels. We do have a fair amount of silt in there. Like I said, we're still unsure whether or not we're gonna have to clean it, and we're still unsure whether it's gonna be this year, next year, or in 3 years. But I wanted to at least put a dollar amount in here for now, and it is a guess. But I put $60,000 in here. If nothing else, it allows us to start doing some engineering work. It's not gonna be $60,000 worth of engineering work, but it may be more costly than that to actually clean the pond. But I wanted to have a dollar amount in here, and in the budget that I handed out, you should have gotten 2 pages. On page 2, I put it, it's just on the main part of it, it's just $60,000 under projects. And then at the end, the summary, and on that page number 2, you'll notice I put $60,000 in it at the end for capital utility cash or borrow to offset it. So it really doesn't change the bottom line, because we do have about I just checked today, I've been waiting on this number from the audit, but $547,000 of undesignated funds right now in the stormwater utility, which is very healthy. So we would propose using those undesignated cash funds to do this type of project. This is what I'm looking to approve at this point. I fully expect that I may be coming back, if we're required to do it this year, for an amendment to this budget for a different dollar amount.
Is that that pond up by the garage?
Yep, right by the garage, yep.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion to approve resolution R-04-2018, stormwater utility.
I make a motion to approve resolution R-04-2018.
Second?
Go ahead, Mike.
Second it.
Okay, motion by Price, second by Will to approve R-04-2018. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 4, resolution R-05-2018, proclaiming Arbor Day in the village of North Fond du Lac. We're going to proclaim Friday, April 27, 2018 as Arbor Day in the village of North Fond du Lac, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor, or we need a motion?
So I make a motion.
I make a motion to accept resolution R-05-2018.
I'll second it.
Motion by Price, second by King to approve resolution R-05-2018. No questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Any communications? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Motion by King, second by Price to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.